the man was in awe. The picture before displayed such skill and quality that held him spellbound, his eyes entranced by the work. The image's content was strange as well. The dedication and talent had not been limited to the brushes. It showed a man dressed in a simple leather tunic, gazing to the side. He carried a loaded crossbow, ready to fire. The background was that of a lush, exuberant jungle, the sun rays beyond arcing. Old trees came down almost in a surreal manner to the ground, gently illuminating patches of the earth. The most intriguing part was that the hunter had been placed with his back turned to a mirror, a full body-sized one at that, in the middle of the forest. His other side was being reflected in the same. It didn't take away the masterful design of the portrait. It was as it was said before, a picture ingeniously created. It was almost as if one was looking at a photograph. No, a window to another location, away from the hazy, grey and polluted depths of the city. Beholding the picture was indeed relaxing, dreamlike. He wished that he could live the life of bucolic wonder. He wished so hard just to step through that archway of a painting and leave everything behind. He exhausted his mind, his being to that wish. But when he gently touched the painting, it remained closed to him. The door to the beyond remained closed. The man thought about certain ironies. The painter had remained anonymous. One could have been paid handsomely for such a masterpiece. And yet, when one automatically refuses monetary reward by choosing to be unknown, it can only be an action springing from the desire only to submerge others in harmony and peace and art. The cigarette he smoked was over, and so he dropped the burnt rod to a nearby ash container and turned all the house lights off, entering bed. Perhaps an effect of the piece of art, sleep came easily that night, like a soft, warm lulling. The mist of slumber slowly took him away, making him float in the unconscious, mystical dreams. His dream, unsurprisingly, was that of a jungle, an exuberant, lush one. He happily wandered through the green labyrinth in wonder, admiring the colossal trees and plants around him. That is, until something rather bizarre happened to him in his slumber. He found a doppelganger of himself. There, standing before his path, was a flawless copy of himself, almost like looking into a mirror. When he saw this peculiar figure, he gasped and stumbled back. What came to him wasn't fear, but surprise, and maybe confusion. Words were sucked from his mouth, and to stretch even more of his surprise, the doppelganger jumped back and gasped as well. The dream ended here, for the man seemed to be pulled back from the wonderland he was in, swallowed back to reality. He had been sleepwalking, and laughing at his situation, he found himself in front of a mirror. He probably knew unconsciously that there was a mirror in his house, so when he walked to it, even in his slumber, he knew he would be reflected. His mind translated this occasion as the doppelganger. He admired it, a smile plastered across his face at the funny thing that had happened. His eyes loomed over his own figure until he came across something that washed off his grin like a water washes dirt. The ground is soil. Wet soil. Indeed it was, for he stepped not in a hardwood of his house, but in the earth of dead leaves and wet soil, as he himself had thought. He looked in the mirror in disbelief, his jaw dropping and creating thousands upon thousands of questions in his mind, something that he stupidly beheld for several moments. He was in a jungle. It had been nearly silent this whole time, but now he saw the trees arching menacingly at him, blocking the sun with a leafy roof. It was silent, only a breeze calmly making the foliage shimmer. but it was not calm, for it seemed to press around him, that wet, damp, and hot air, like a heavy cloud of moisture. The forest was holding its breath, preparing, until he broke a stick behind him. Then, everything came to life. All at once, the jungle animated. The wind blew strong, and from still heavy air became thundering, buzzing storms. Noises were all around him. Everything happened in an animalistic, primal, tribal rhythm of natural causes. Chaos flowed like blood in the veins here, and the crazed dance came to his surrounding. It pressed into him from all sides, pushing him, screaming at him. The sudden transformation lifted the veil of stillness as he stumbled forward, trying to escape the presence, the threat behind him. Whatever broke the stick. He ran in that chase like a threatened, defenseless deer. The cacophony of primeval sounds, smells, sensations, and everything seemed to dance this insane dance. Everything seemed not to care about his fear, his boiling blood and injected eyes. He panted as he ran. Whatever that was behind him kept the perfect pace, as if they were two instinct-driven beings in this tribal, almost drumming rhythmic madness. He forgot who he was, his name, life, everything. That place, that chase, left only a small, weak and scared animal, running for his life, desperately trying to survive, to sprint and jump for safety. Only his life mattered now. His stamina had been drained. He had been left breathless and weary. Thus, he fell to a tangle of roots in his knees, hiding now, no longer running. It all come down to whether his predator would find his prey. The forest shouted in his ears, with everything, the drums growing louder, louder and louder. Then, like a final blow to the screaming and shrieking sounds, silence. The forest once more held its breath, waiting, anxious and ever tense. A sting. A sting so deep, it seemed to pierce not only himself, but the whole world. It came through his mind, his body and his soul. For his very existence had been pierced by this all-painful, eternal sting. He looked down. An arrow. A bloodied, crimson arrow erupted from his chest, tearing apart skin, cloth, flesh, and everything. His face went alabaster pale as blood gushed from his wound. His mind slowly faded into the oblivion of nothing, and the last thing he saw was a pair of leather boots slowly walking before his eyes. Thanks for sticking around to the end, and if you enjoyed today's story, make sure to leave a like, and if you want more like it, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a story. If you need more now, why not check out my Creepypasta playlist? I'll leave that on this card, and I'll catch you in the next story.